I'm Joni with Looking at Careers with Joni, and I'm here today with Dylan from Ethical Home Solutions. Hi, Dylan. Thanks for
Hey,
being here tonight.
hey, Joni, thanks for having me.
I was talking to Dylan a little earlier, and he told me he started out studying finance, but never really used what he studied in school when he started working, which I think is true for a lot of us. So, Dylan, when you first got out of school, tell me what you did.
So actually, when I was in college, I was interning at a steel manufacturing company based here in Tampa. And so I
Mhm.
ended up just working full time, moving straight when I graduated college. I started working full time as an inside sales rep for that company.
Okay, and for people who don't know, what exactly does an inside sales rep do? What do you have to know, and how does it all work?
Yeah, so it really can vary depending on the company. And my
Sure.
situation, I wasn't really doing as much outbound sales. It was a lot more inbound sales. So in our specific company, I mean, and keep in mind it was a small family-owned company,
Hmm.
and so they had a lot of established customers that they had built over many years that would call and do a lot of repeat orders or orders for different things, but a lot from the same customers. So you're building relationships over the phone with a
Right.
lot of the same types of clients, and you had to have a full understanding of all of the products that we sold. So we had four warehouses in Tampa where we would sell, amongst other things, mainly steel plate and steel bar, a lot of different varieties and types of raw plate and raw steel bar that we would cut using different CNC flame or different cutting tools to be able to cut plates for very specific detailed shapes. Same thing with bars and a lot of different types of bars that were used in different applications depending on the different types of steel and materials. And so it was a lot of knowledge on steel, iron, their strengths, where their best use cases for, that type of stuff.
And your company didn't manufacture the steel; it wasn't a mill. You
No,
just
yeah,
got the steel and made the parts.
yes, correct. So yeah, we would import large quantities of steel plate and steel bar,
Mhm.
and then cut them ourselves to desired shapes that would be used for like end users, like machine shops, cement plants, big mines, sugar mills, mineral
Wow.
beneficiation plants. So we had a fabrication shop there, and then we also
Hmm.
sold steel plate and steel bar.
Okay, that's great. And so after time, then you moved into outside sales.
Yes, yes, correct. Yeah.
So what was the difference there? No, how do I want to ask you this? So there's a big difference between inbound sales and going out and selling.
Oh yeah.
How did you feel about that change in your career?
For me, it was phenomenal. I was starting to get a little claustrophobic coming into an office and sitting behind the desk every day. And
Uh-huh.
so I was itching to be able to get out, and you have a lot more flexibility in your schedule. You end up working a lot more,
Sure.
but I certainly enjoyed being able to go to different places. No 2 days were ever the same. And then it was a lot of travel, a lot of international travel. It really allowed me to see a ton of places that I would never have been able to see otherwise. And so it was very fortunate. It was a lot of trips to other countries. And then at the end of those trips, oftentimes I was able to tack on like 1 or 2 days and do a little mini vacation, or wherever I was going, I'd be able to go and see some of the notable sites and everything. So it
Oh,
allowed
fun.
me, yeah, a ton of opportunity that to see things that I otherwise would have never been able to.
Oh, that is fun. And did you have to cold call?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
How'd you like doing that?
I mean, it was challenging for sure, especially there was a lot of people, not a lot of people, but there was definitely situations people were not very nice, not very kind, but anyone who's going to be able to thrive in that type of role, you're going to have to develop a thick skin and be able to be told things that are not very kind and
Yeah.
just let it, yeah, let it roll right off your back. And so that really wasn't an issue for me. I didn't take any of that stuff personally, and
Good.
always just tried to lead out of a place of wanting to help.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of places that we were a good fit and we were able to help. And there was a couple places where the decision makers in charge didn't have any interest, anything that I had to say, and they let me know it. And so, but
Well, that
there's
happens.
a lot
Yeah.
of those people that just through persistence and consistency, I had people that started off telling me, hey, I don't ever want to see. I'm cleaning up the language, but I don't ever want to see your, frickin'
Yeah.
face around here. I don't have any need for that. We have all our needs already met for the products that you supply. Um, and some of those ended up being some of my best clients.
Oh, that's great. So that didn't scare you away. You still knew how to go back and talk to them, and that's
Oh,
great. That
absolutely. Yeah.
not everybody can do that. That's hard.
Yeah. Well, so like I have, there's a couple areas where I have a strong skill set, and then there's certainly areas that I do not have a strong skill set.
Yeah, as
And
all of
so,
us.
yeah, yeah. So I just keep trying to make sure that I'm focusing the time in my time in areas where my skill set can really be leveraged.
I have to ask you just because I have some friends in China and Japan that own a metal stamping plant. Did
Really?
you ever go to companies like that and try to?
Yeah, often I've
You
been to
might know
China.
them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's certainly a lot of manufacturers out there, but yeah, we used to do a lot of manufacturing in China. So I've been to China twice. We did a lot in India. I've been to India twice. I've been from
Wow.
Canada to Argentina, a handful of places in Europe, um, but mainly in China, India, and South America, where we did the majority of our manufacturing. So, and then a lot of it was visiting foundries, forging shops, machine fabricators.
Right.
Hmm.
Fun. I mean, that's fun. That's an education in itself.
Oh, very much so. Yeah, and that's something that you'll never be able to get in any college or any book. Is
Yep.
just really being able to open your eyes up to experience different cultures and see how other people live, and really get that real world experience for having a deeper appreciation for how other people live in other countries.
Right. So you decided though you had enough. No,
Yeah.
well, wait a
So.
minute. Let me back up. So you were doing outside sales,
Mhm.
and I know that your position grew over time. So it was more than just selling. You moved into management.
Yep.
Okay. So tell me about that.
Yeah, so I started off, on the outside sales role. I really just had one territory. When I transitioned from inside sales to outside sales, I went to the owners of the company and I said, "Okay, great. I've got promoted to outside sales like I had been wanting. Thank you. Where's my territory?" And they said,
Right.
"You don't have a territory. Everywhere that we're currently selling, you or everywhere, yeah, everywhere that we're currently selling is already being serviced by an existing salesperson for that account. So you have just gotten promoted to outside sales, but you need to basically any account that you want to do, you just need
Mhm.
to go and develop it yourself." And so every account that I had was from cold calling, and for me breaking into a new companies, not a one had heard of us beforehand.
Wow. Wow, that's
So
hard. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It was definitely good that at the time I was sales plus commission, because in that type of situation, there was nothing
Yeah.
that was coming in for that very
Yeah,
immediate,
you couldn't
you
do
know.
straight commission like that, or it would
Oh
be
yeah,
hard.
yeah. When
Yeah.
you step into a situation where they say, okay, any sales territory that you want, you're gonna have to go and develop yourself.
Right.
So that's what I did. And after a number of years, maybe 4 or 5 years, I was promoted and put into a position of basically sales management. So I was actively still the person. I mean, it's like I said, small family company. So a
Mhm.
lot of people wore a lot of hats. I was
Sure.
still the sales rep for my territory. And
Uh-huh.
then in addition to that, was overseeing all of the other sales territories by all the other salespeople on the team.
Okay. Okay. And those people had to report to you. Did you have to come down hard when they weren't selling enough? Did
Um,
everybody have quotas?
so we didn't really have quotas. Like I said, there was a lot of management that I wish would have been bought to the company. It's one of the reasons for why over time I ended up leaving, was because I realized there's only can be so much change that you can bring to a company if it's not implemented and enforced from the very top down,
Sure.
especially in a small family company like that.
Yep.
And so there was certainly a lot that I was able to bring that they did want to bring on changes, bring on some type of meeting rhythm, quarterly reports, monthly reports. But there were certainly some things that never ended up getting put into action.
Sure.
But ultimately, still, so the sales that were made, the products that were going out the door, the projected sales, I was in charge of overseeing all of that and basically getting. From my perspective, I was kind of just putting out fire to fire. I would, each salesman had a number of different things going on in their territory, and
Yep.
then when problems would arise, I would have to go in there and help address them and help sort them out. And so I felt
Yeah,
like more
that's
I was more of a firefighter more than anything
sure.
at times.
And I'll tell you something. It doesn't matter if it's a big company or a small company. The same things happen.
Oh,
And
really?
change is always hard. Yep. So, it's
That's
just
interesting.
how many people you're dealing with when that
Yeah,
happens.
yeah, very interesting.
So you decided it was time for change.
Yes, yes, correct.
And so where was your head? Did you look at a lot of different things or did you know what you wanted to do?
Yeah, so it was in, I'd say, the fall of 2020.
Mhm.
I had really been looking for some other option. I had been more and more realizing as time went on that the advancement opportunities in that company were limited. The things that I was wanting to put in place really weren't, unfortunately, being put in place. And so it was some frustration on my part, and I also just had a desire to be able to go and build my own thing. I wasn't
Mhm.
exactly sure what that would entail, or where that path would even take me, but I knew that I
Right.
had a desire to at least go out there and try. And there was a quote that I heard. I'm going to paraphrase it, but basically, when your fear of regret outweighs your fear of failure, is when you'll take the action to actually make a change. I think that may be really helpful for people who are watching
That's
your
true.
podcast in particular, people who may be considering making a change, maybe not completely fulfilled with what they're currently doing, and
Mhm.
they may have a sense of lingering regret,
Mhm.
but it's also balanced with a sense of failure if they were to leave and then pursue something new.
Yep.
And for me, finally, that scale flipped, where that sense of the fear of regret finally outweighed my fear of failure. And that's when
Mhm.
I started at least looking at alternative options for another path for me to be able to do something.
And I just to interrupt, I somebody told me that in my career, early in my career when I was ready to make a change, and it was you never want to look back and think, what if I would have done that? And I mean, that's basically what you're saying. I think that that was the best advice I had ever gotten. I think it's great advice.
Oh yeah, no,
So,
I agree 100%.
okay, so you got that advice and you decided to make a change. And did you know what you wanted to do?
Not exactly. It did coincide. So that was, the fall fall of 2020. August, September, October is in that time frame. I mean, that was COVID had really come on strong,
Yeah,
and that was the first couple months of COVID. And so um, the real estate market in Florida, I mean, across the nation, was really going up, and then especially in Florida, and then especially in the Tampa Bay area was
right.
just really, really hot. And I didn't know, I didn't have anyone in my family or anything that was related to real estate, but there was one person who I had went to high school with that I had just stayed connected through Facebook. And I'd seen him posting. We hadn't talked since, for over 10 years since
Sure.
we had both went to high school. But I finally reached out to him. He had started a real estate investment company, and he was doing really well. And so I reached out to him and just said, "Hey, I've got an interest in, getting into real estate. Do you have any suggestions, any advice on the best way to start taking those first steps?" And before, I was just researching. I call it YouTube University, where you start going down the rabbit hole. You search one thing, you're like, how
Yep.
to get into real estate. on YouTube, and next thing you know, you're watching the next video and the next video. And so I
Yeah.
did about 3-4 months of that, and then I finally reached out to the person that had gone to high school with me, and he like I said, he had a successful real estate company, and he said, "Man, I am holding real estate meetings at my office in Tampa. Why don't you come?" And I go over, I talk about different things that are going on, and basically having these real estate meetups. And so I started attending those. Those were the first real estate meetups that I started attending, and really just diving deep and trying to learn as much as possible. And so that was probably around August of 2020. And so there is a thing called uh, analysis paralysis for people who are
Right.
early on in the real estate journey. That's
Yep.
really common. And I was, had fallen into that. And so I just kept trying to analyze, different opportunities and get all as much education as I could. And I was always adverse to taking that first step,
Yep.
and always falling back on, oh, I can't do that. I need more education. I need to
Yep.
learn more before I can take action. And
Hmm.
so it actually ended up where he had the person who I reached out to, who was holding the real estate meetups. He calls me because I had been kind of like going to all of his re-ups or real estate meetups and asking him advice. And he calls me and he said, "Hey, I got a deal that someone has brought my way that I'm not going to take advantage of. Do you want it?" And he really actually helped me out. He said, "Listen, I've already looked into it. I can tell you that, if you do this right, it's going to be a good deal. It would be a property that you would need to buy and then fix up and sell." And he was just really instrumental. He even said, "Hey, listen, I'll help sell you this deal, and then the part which is customary for this type of transaction." And he said,
Yep.
"Listen, uh, you only would need to pay me a very small amount, and it would only be at the very end after you sell it,
Hmm.
only if you make money on it." And
Okay.
so he really
That's a
helped me
nice
out.
deal. Yeah.
Oh, very, yeah, very much so. I mean, so I gotta say, like, I wouldn't, have been able to, like, I don't know, not ever take that first step, but taking
Hmm.
that first step, which was monumental for me, I
Yep.
definitely want to make sure, like, I acknowledge someone who was really pivotal and really helped me out a lot in that situation. And I think that that's very, very good to keep in mind for other people to kind of like pay it forward to
Yeah.
help, somebody else who's trying to work hard and get to somewhere where they're not currently at. And from people reaching out and lending a helping hand in that type of situation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. It always comes back to.
yeah, yeah,
Um, so what you're doing right now, and then I'll go back to your company, but you're buying homes and flipping them?
mainly, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So we're buying
So
houses and fixing them up and selling
so
them.
do you do the fix ups or do you have a contractor? How do you do that?
Yeah, no. So I work with people. I don't
Okay.
really do any of the labor myself. And so
Okay.
again, I try to you maximize my time doing the things that I'm best suited for that fit my skill set. And so
Okay.
I don't have a vast knowledge of actually doing the actual work to rehab property. I know how to
Hmm.
coordinate people, work with people, manage people, get people who are really skilled at those different aspects, putting in floors, repairing drywall, putting in kitchens. And so I am using my time to be able to work with people who that is their skill set,
Hmm.
as opposed to doing that myself.
That's great. So in doing, I always wondered this because I always thought, gee, could I buy and flip? I don't know that I could because the things that I'd want to put into a home would cost too much and I'd end up losing money. So
Yeah.
so how do you do that? How do you pay these guys, buy the property, and still sell it for a profit?
Yeah. So I mean, and it's a really it's a classic saying in real estate because it is so true. But you make your money on the purchase. You make your money on the front end when you buy a property, and that is having the skill, the knowledge, the know-how to be able to find and acquire a piece of real estate at a substantial discount. And so that way you're able to pay people to do renovations and give yourself some leeway in there that in case something goes wrong, and it always does,
Right.
or if things take too long, and it always does,
Right.
that you're still able to account for all those costs. And then when you go to sell the property, and there's a lot of expenses that are involved when you sell a piece of real estate, and then at the end, you're still going to be able to have a healthy margin that you've built in there that is going to
Mhm.
be your profit. So a lot of that entails on buying it at the right price with the right numbers on the front end.
And through your YouTube university, that's how you learned, you know, how what percentage you needed to be able to have in order to still make money.
Yeah, I'd say from like on the from a basic level, yeah, you can find out a lot of that information. Now I've paid for education too. That's actually one of my mistakes that I've done, and I've made. I got to tell you, Johnny, I've made many mistakes going down this path. I mean, I I left. I was making a good living at the sales
Right.
management role at the steel manufacturing company,
Uh-huh.
and I decided to leave for a number of reasons. And then when I left, I transitioned into real estate, and I really didn't have, I done one fix and flip while I was working, but other than that, it's not like I really had any experience in real estate. And so I took
Right.
a pretty big leap jumping into an industry that I really didn't have a ton of experience in. Another thing that, yeah, that I would not recommend, just from my own personal journey, I would recommend to build up and gain some more experience if you're going to make a total shift like that, 180 degrees into a brand new industry. As
Right.
someone who has done that, I always recommend to people now to, hey, while you're working that W-2 job, um, work on the side to build up and gain experience and momentum in this next path. If you're looking to start your own company,
Right.
like I did, in a new field, in a brand new field,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, work and build up some experience and momentum before making that leap, because it can save you definitely a lot of sleepless nights.
No, it sounds so easy, right? You buy some property, you hire some people, they do all the work, and then it's done, and you make, a whole bunch of money.
Oh yeah, it definitely it sounds, when you say it like that, it definitely sounds easy. I mean, it's like telling Microsoft, "Oh yeah, you guys just go build a computer and then sell it, and then you make a couple $1 billion and take
So
the
hard.
afternoon off." Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess when you say it like that, it does sound easy.
Yeah, none of this is easy. None of it's easy.
No,
But
yeah.
I'll tell you, what I always hear is big money's to be made in real estate and oil.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I serviced oil refineries back with my old, when I
oh,
was
did
working on
you?
the steel manufacturing side. And
Yeah.
but yeah, definitely a lot of money in oil, definitely a lot of money in real estate. And
Yeah.
so yeah,
And a
if
lot of other industries, but that's what you
oh yeah,
always hear. Yeah.
yeah, 100%.
So, have you ever looked back?
No, no. I mean, I have certain, like I said, I really have had a lot of struggles on this
Mhm.
journey, and even at my lowest points, I knew that I had made the right decision of leaving. If I could go back and do it over again, I would have continued working down, this path and
Mhm.
started, my own company and in real estate, but had just kept that W-2 and worked on the side and built up some momentum before I
Sure.
made the transition, because it does take quite a bit of time, especially if you're going into a new industry where you're having to learn everything from square one,
Right.
and then doing everything from the ground up. I mean, you're learning and you're doing it at the same time. And when you're doing it in a completely unknown field to you, it's going to be a much longer process. That
Although
that learn that yeah,
I'll bet you learned it faster because you had to.
I did, and even still, I was learning it faster, and even still, nowhere near as fast as I was wanting
Sure.
to,
Of
or
course.
as I had envisioned.
Yeah.
And so you can take shortcuts, but it's still going to take time, and it's going to take time. Just even say if you know everything, just once you actually start taking action, it takes a lot of time to build up momentum, to build a pipeline, to build, potential opportunities that are coming in front of you that you're going to be able to capitalize on. it takes time. It just takes time, and it takes a lot of work. And so I am glad that I left and never looked back. But if I could go back and do it again, if I could give anyone a piece of advice, I always tell
Mhm.
people now, leverage that W-2 job as much as you can until you absolutely don't need it, and build up, something where you have some experience and momentum so you can step into it and have an easier transition that, like I said, will save you a lot of
Yeah.
sleepless nights.
And I think that's good advice no matter what industry that you're going into if you decide to be an entrepreneur. So
Yeah, yeah,
did you
absolutely.
ever think like 10 years down the road, you think you'll still be doing this or are you going to be teaching classes and make
Yeah, no, I hope so. I don't have any desire to go into the education space. I know there's a lot of people in the real estate education space, and so I don't have any desire to do that. I really enjoy real estate,
yeah,
and I enjoy sharing, what I've learned and my experiences with people. But I still, at the end of the day, would rather the majority of my time, the vast majority of my time, spent
mhm,
operating and working in real estate as opposed to doing real estate education. And
right.
so, yeah, I hope that I'm able to continue to do this. That's my plan. That's what I'm working for every day, and
Hmm.
it's very rewarding.
Good, good. Well, I
Yeah,
think you're going to be really successful because when you love what you're doing, you usually are.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you better, especially if you're gonna go like the entrepreneurial route
Yep.
and you're gonna start your own company, there's gonna be so many things going against you. The doubt of your friends and family, your own inner doubt, your learning curve, the cost that it takes, the emotional toll that it takes. I mean, those things are not to be uh, just tossed aside. Those are
Right.
serious things to consider. So if you're gonna take on all of those headwinds, yeah, you better love whatever you're picking to do,
Yep.
because you're going to have so many things that are going to try to take you off that path, that
Yep.
if you're just doing it just for the idea of chasing money, or the idea of maybe somebody else you saw was successful and that's the only reason why you're doing it, I think that it's going to become much easier to be able to become derailed from that
Right.
pursuit. Yeah.
I You're very smart. I think that's great advice. That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
So, and anything else that you want to say before we wrap this up?
Yeah, nothing that I can think of. I certainly
No.
appreciate the opportunity to come on here and share my story with you. I love, I mean, what you were doing, and you're saying that, you're helping. What was the term you used? Like a career, kind of like a career guidance.
Counselor. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, to shed guidance and help people,
Yep.
that possibly want to pursue something else. They know there's something, they're meant for something more,
Mm-hmm.
and have that energy in them, and
Yep.
just are unsure of where to be able to point that.
Mm-hmm.
I I
Yeah.
think that
And it
that is.
doesn't have to be real estate and it doesn't have to be inside sales. It's just not figuring out it's time for a change. And like you said, do it now. If you think you're ready, do it now.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I'll leave you with one thing that definitely had a
uh-huh.
big impact on me. Steve Jobs had a very famous speech that he gave at oh gosh, uh, Princeton, or he gave a speech at some college
Mm-hmm.
graduation, and he said, and it may sound kind of morbid initially, but he said, "Listen, for me, knowing that I was going to die at some point was the biggest motivator." He goes, "When I look back, I know that all of the fears, the worries, the fear of judgment that I'm going to have from other people, the fear of failure, all of that erodes away when you think of the reality of, hey, none of us are making it out of this thing alive. And so why not use this time to do what you're doing?" And he goes, anytime that I had something where I was waking up and doing something that I was truly unhappy with, when that happened for too many days in a row, I knew I needed to make a change. And I
That's
really
true.
internalized that. Yeah. And so I
Well,
had
I'm
the
going to
fear of
have to
fail.
look for that speech. That sounds really like a
Yeah.
good
Yeah. I
one.
mean, again, YouTube University, you just type in Steve Jobs speech at college graduation. It'll be the first
Yeah.
thing that pops up. But that really resonated with me. And once I realized, I was like, oh my goodness, I got all these fears of failure and judgment, and,
Yeah.
my own pride and ego and all these things. But at the end of the day, I'm going to look back on my life, and none of that is going to mean anything.
Yep.
So why not make the most of this precious time we have?
Yep. I agree. Well, great. Well, thank you very much, Dylan. Again, this is Dylan with Ethical Home Solutions, and I'll put your website in our little the beginning of this
Oh,
webinar.
nice.
Yeah. And, if you're watching this and you like what you're hearing, please give us a thumbs up and throw in some comments. It would be nice to hear what everybody has to say. Again, I'm Joni with Looking at Careers with Joni. And until the next time, thanks for watching. Bye.